I worked at a hotel in Switzerland. An American family checked in and asked me for a room with a view of the Eiffel Tower. I politely explained that the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, which is in France. The father scoffed and said, "Don't lie to me, I know my European geography. All the famous stuff is in the same place." He then demanded to speak to my manager to complain about our false advertising. A tourist from California was visiting our small coastal town in Portugal. He came up to me on the beach, pointed at the sun setting over the Atlantic, and asked with complete sincerity, "What time do you guys turn that off? I want to make sure I get a good picture before the show is over." I was so stunned I just said, "The management handles that automatically around 8 p.m. He nodded and thanked me. Dialogue I overheard in a cafe in Rome. American: "Excuse me, do you have any ranch dressing for this salad?" Waiter: "No, signora, we have olive oil and balsamic vinegar." American: "But how do you eat salad then? Don't you have anything normal, like from America?" The waiter just slowly walked away without saying another word. I was a tour guide at the Roman Forum. An American man asked me, "So why didn't the Romans just speak English? It would have made things so much easier for everyone." I tried to explain the history of languages, but he just shook his head and muttered, "Seems like a really dumb oversight on their part." My cousin from Idaho came to visit me in London. We were on the tube, and she saw the "Mind the Gap" signs. She turned to me with wide, concerned eyes and whispered, "Who is Gap? And why is everyone so afraid of him? Is he a terrorist?" I had to spend the next 10 minutes explaining it was a warning about the space between the train and the platform. A customer at my bookstore in Scotland asked if we had the US Constitution. I said we didn't stock it. She got angry, saying, "But it's the most important document in the world. Every country should have it by law." I tried to explain that we operate under Scottish and UK law, but she just called me unpatriotic and stormed out. While working at a wildlife sanctuary in Australia, an American tourist pointed at a kangaroo and asked, "Do you have to wind them up in the morning or do they hop on their own?" He was completely serious. He thought they were like giant wind-up toys, and we had a key for their backs. In Tokyo, I saw an American tourist trying to pay for a bowl of ramen with US dollars. The cashier politely refused. The American got louder. "What do you mean you don't take dollars? It's the world's currency. This is an insult to my country." He genuinely believed his cash should be accepted everywhere on the planet. An American woman in a Dublin pub told my friend his accent was a bit much. She said, "Could you tone it down a little? You sound like a leprechaun from a cartoon. Try to speak more clearly like us." My friend, born and raised in Dublin, just stared at her in disbelief before ordering another Guinness. My uncle was driving his American friend on the Autobahn in Germany. The friend saw a sign for an Ausfahrt and panicked. "Dude, pull over. We have to see Ausfahrt. I've heard it's a beautiful old German town." My uncle had to gently explain that Ausfahrt means exit, and they had been seeing signs for it every few kilometres. I work at a coffee shop in Vancouver, Canada, just across the border. An American tourist tried to pay with US cash and was confused when I gave him his change in Canadian currency. "Whoa, what's this monopoly money? I gave you real money. I want real money back." I had to explain that he was, in fact, in a different country. While I was studying in England, my American roommate asked me if I wanted to go see the Queen. I asked what she meant. She said, "You know, at the palace. Doesn't she come out at noon every day to wave at people, like a cuckoo clock?" She was genuinely disappointed to learn that the Queen of England does not, in fact, perform daily scheduled appearances for tourists. An American couple on their honeymoon in Spain complained to their hotel manager that the whole town was broken. They were furious that shops were closed in the afternoon. This is terrible customer service. In America, things are open when we want them to be. The concept of a siesta was completely alien and offensive to them. I was helping an American tourist in France who was trying to buy some cheese. He asked for £0.5. The shopkeeper, who spoke little English, was confused. The American started shouting, £1, like money, but for weight. He then pulled out a dollar bill and waved it at the cheese, as if that would clarify the unit of measurement. In a university geography class, a student from Texas insisted that Africa was a single country. The professor spent 15 minutes showing maps and listing nations. The student finally said, "Okay, I get that it has states, like we do, but what's the capital of the country of Africa? Is it Egypt?" The professor just put his head in his hands. My American friend rented a car in the UK. He called me an hour later, completely freaking out. "Everyone here is driving on the wrong side of the road. It's chaos. I've almost crashed like 10 times because of these crazy drivers." I had to remind him that he was the one who was supposed to be driving on the left. Overheard at the Giza pyramids. American teenager to her father. "This is so fake. The sand is way too perfect. It's definitely a movie set. Where's the real Egypt?" Her father nodded in agreement. "You're right, honey. It's probably all part of the resort. Let's go find the water park." An American tourist in Paris stopped me to ask for directions. I replied in French, as it's my native language. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on. Everyone speaks English. Just drop the act." She was convinced I was just being rude and pretending not to understand her for my own amusement. At the East Side Gallery in Berlin, I heard an American ask his guide, "So which side did the communists build to keep the Mexicans out?" The guide was speechless for a solid minute before trying to explain the entire Cold War in the simplest terms possible. The tourist just looked confused and said, "So, the Germans have a Mexico too?" I'm from New Zealand. An American I met was convinced that New Zealand was a state in Australia. I tried to correct him, but he pulled out his phone and showed me a map. "See, they're right next to each other. It's like our Florida and Georgia." No amount of explaining about sovereignty, different governments, or vast oceans could change his mind. A woman from Ohio was visiting my city of Florence, Italy. She asked me where she could find the real statue of David. I pointed her toward the Galleria dell'Accademia. She came back an hour later, furious. "That was a naked man. I wanted to see the statue of David, the one who killed Goliath. Where's his slingshot and his clothes? This is a disgrace." Dialogue in an Amsterdam coffee shop. Not that kind. American: "Do you guys celebrate the 4th of July here?" Barista: "No, that's an American independence holiday." American: "But independence from who?" Barista: "The British." American: "Right, so why don't you celebrate it? Aren't you happy we're free?" An American student in my history class in Sweden raised his hand and asked, "If Europe is so old, why didn't it discover America first?" The professor just blinked, took a deep breath and said, "Let's unpack that question. First, let's talk about a man named Leif Erikson." The student looked completely baffled. I was working at a currency exchange in London. An American came to my window and said, "I'd like to exchange these for some European money." I asked, "Euros, you mean?" He said, "No, European. I'm going to France, Spain and Italy. I want the money that works in all of Europe." He thought Europe had a single currency called the European. A tourist in Iceland was looking at a glacier. He asked the guide, "So do you guys have to import all this ice, or do you have a big factory for it? It must cost a fortune to keep the country refrigerated like this." The guide had to explain that the ice was, in fact, natural and had been there for thousands of years. My friend is a flight attendant. On a flight to Greece, a passenger from Alabama asked her if she could ask the pilot to fly by Mount Rushmore on the way. My friend had to gently show him on the flight map that they were currently over the Atlantic Ocean and that Mount Rushmore was about 5,000 miles in the opposite direction. In a pub in Edinburgh, an American tourist loudly declared, "I don't get why you all have accents. We speak normal English in America. You guys should learn to speak it properly." An old Scottish man at the bar turned around and said, "Aye, son, we'll get right on that just as soon as we're done inventing it." An American I met in Thailand was complaining about the food. "It's all so ethnic. Don't they have any regular food here, like cheeseburgers or pizza?" I pointed out a nearby McDonald's and Burger King. He looked relieved and said, "Oh, thank God. For a second there, I thought I was going to have to eat their actual food." A woman on a tour of the Vatican asked the guide, "Okay, I get the religion part, but who's the CEO? There has to be a business guy in charge of all this, right? The Pope seems more like a celebrity spokesperson." She could only comprehend the world's oldest institution through the lens of a modern American corporation. I overheard this at a train station in Japan. American: "Why are all the signs in Japanese? That's so inconvenient for tourists." His friend: "I know, right? You'd think they'd make their country a little more user-friendly." They were genuinely annoyed that Japan catered to its own population. A man from Texas was visiting the Great Wall of China. He asked the guide, "How long did it take the Mexicans to build this?" The guide, confused, said, "The Chinese built the wall." The Texan replied, "Yeah, I get it, but what was the name of the Mexican construction company they hired? Must have been a huge contract." My sister was a student in South Korea. Her American roommate refused to eat kimchi. Her reason: "It's not FDA approved. How do I know it's safe? In America, the government makes sure our food won't kill us. This stuff could be poison." She lived on Pringles and Oreos she bought from the US Army base. An American tourist in Vienna, Austria, asked a police officer for directions to the beach to see the kangaroos. The officer, trying not to laugh, explained that he was thinking of Australia. The tourist got angry and said, "Don't be stupid. Everyone knows Austria is famous for kangaroos. It's right in the name, Austria." I was on a bus in Peru, heading towards Machu Picchu. An American woman was complaining to her husband, "I can't believe there's no Wi-Fi up here. How am I supposed to post this on Instagram? It's like they don't even want our tourist dollars. So unprofessional." She was upset about the lack of internet at a 15th century Inca citadel. A guy in my hostel in Prague was from Florida. He told me he was shocked at how old everything in Europe was. It's like, don't you guys have a budget for renovations? In Florida, we'd tear all this old stuff down and build some nice new condos. It would really improve the property values. At a winery in the French countryside, an American tourist tasted a glass of Bordeaux, made a face and said, "It's okay, I guess, but have you ever had Bud Light? Now that's a quality beverage. You guys should try making something smooth like that." The French winemaker looked like he was about to cry.